Thank you for staying in this very important discussion on the 7 love agreements. As always, you can go to the website and ask questions or give us a call if you need prayer. We want to hear from you, however that works for you. All right? Now, I want to share one agreement we make about forgiveness. Now, remember, you must look at your behavior. Now, this applies to any and all relationships. Now, I'm talking about these agreements in a normal situation, not one where there's abuse, neglect, addiction, or mental health diagnoses, because that can be a significantly different playing field, and I'm not talking about that. So if you're involved in one of those situations, please hear my heart. This is for normal situations, okay? And if you're in any of those situations, call a counselor, get help, try to work through it, okay? I want to talk to you about the agreement that we each have. We actually have an agreement about forgiveness. Now, whether it's in a marriage or in any relationship, we already have an agreement on how we are going to treat or deal with sin in a relationship. Because every person you meet is a sinner. Some are saved sinners, some are unsaved sinners, but they all sin, and we all sin and fall short of the glory of God, right? So we have to have an agreement about dealing with this. Now, yes, sadly, even Christian marriage have to deal with sin because it's there, okay? Sometimes in the morning, sometimes in noon, sometimes evening, sometimes you get away with a couple days when there's not much sin, but then sometimes it hits you in the face, right? That's part of being married. Now, we basically have 2 different agreements on sin. I want to walk through these, and you can see which one you're at. Okay? And there's a whole chapter on this in the 7 love agreements, and you can work through that even better. Now, one agreement on sin is we will be judge, jury, and executor on every sin our spouse or other people commits. Okay? So each time we will decide if that sin can be forgiven or if they need to be punished, and we will be the executioner of that sin. Now, I know that sounds funny to you, but your behavior will expose if this is your agreement. If every time a sin comes up, you have to have a conversation about it. You have to confront it. You don't. Okay, that's an attitude. I can forgive that. I can give grace to it. Okay? But then if you start executing judgment on it and you start punishing the person for it, okay, now I'm not talking about having boundaries that make sense. I'm talking about where you decide, you know what, I'm going to sit in judgment on that sin. I'm going to punish you. I'm not going to tell you that I'm punishing you because of what you did. I'm just going to punish you. Or I might tell you what you did was wrong, and then I'm going to punish you, not talk about my punishment. Now, I know there's millions of people watching this show right now, and none of you do that. I'm not going to get an email about how you do that because you're just so amazing and wonderful and gracious. I get that, okay? Let's talk about the second way that you can have a forgiveness agreement, and that is when you decide, when you get married or in some other relationships, that you will forgive sins, okay? Whether they confess them or not, whether they're aware of them or not, okay? The sinning partner lives forgiven even before or after they sin. I'm going to forgive you. You know, I don't mind when people making mistakes around me. I love when they're honest about them and tell me about them. But, I'm not going to punish you for them because I live in a forgiven state and I try as much as possible to forgive others, okay, because I've been forgiven. And that frees me up for a lot because I don't have to keep track of people's sins. Keeping track of people's sins is really it's a full-time job, okay? And it's, it makes it a lot easier in God when Jesus forgives them because then he doesn't keep up with them either. Now let me show you how to break and make a new agreement. Now first we have to break the old agreement. Now let me lead you in a prayer, and this is about the forgiveness thing, okay? Now in each one of the topics we covered earlier, there is a make and break prayer where you can break that other covenant, okay, or promise you made to yourself or idea that you had, and you can make a new one. So this is about forgiveness. So if I'm breaking it, it might sound something like this. Jesus, I ask you to forgive me of any beliefs, attitudes, thoughts, or behaviors of unforgiveness towards my spouse or another person. I confess these beliefs, attitudes, thoughts, or behaviors of unforgiveness as sin against you, my spouse, myself, or that other person. I break any agreements in my mind, my will, or emotions that I have had with unforgiveness in the name of Jesus. And his name is above all names. And when you own something that you've agreed with, and you confess it as sin, and you break agreement with it, you're moving in a different direction. Okay? Now you want to give your heart, okay, where the agreements are made, a new direction. So we want to make a new agreement. So when you make a new agreement, it might go something like this. In the name of Jesus, I make a love agreement to forgive my spouse or other person, okay? I command my mind, my will, and my emotions to create new beliefs, attitudes, thoughts, and behaviors to forgive my spouse or the other people that are on my mind or on my list. I've also commanded my mind, my will, and my emotions to create new beliefs, attitudes, thoughts, and behaviors to help me be honest about my own sins and to quickly and regularly ask my spouse or other people for forgiveness of my own sins and to freely forgive others in the name of Jesus. Now, you will need to track yourself and see how you're walking in the area of forgiveness, if you're able to let things go. And you can set up accountability with someone of the same gender and let them know how you're doing if you really want to up your game and keep your agreement. You can change any agreement you want. In the 7 love agreements, you can change your relationships by changing your agreements. And once you change your agreements, you change how you show up in a relationship or in a marriage. And once you show up differently, there's a potential for real change all around. Now, it doesn't always happen, but wouldn't it be great to just know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and that you have a clear conscience about how you're behaving in a relationship or in a marriage? So get the 7 love agreements and really just chisel this stuff out. You can walk in the Spirit in new and powerful ways by using the 7 love agreements.